Hi, it's Miles Red Songbird in New York City. You're looking at my picture of my father, the sun. Okay, he has given me so much light. I can see the steps of sex, and I want to share them with you. This is a continuation of what I did in the previous video. So it says, this author, writing with ink coming out the pen, is sex decoded. She's experiencing intimate pleasure, sex. That's the point, and that's the pin. The pinpoint is pleasure. When I write, automatic writing, this is what I do. The ink comes out the pen, and words appear, and made into a sentence, and another sentence, and a paragraph, and a page. They give me truth. They reveal truth. So that is intimate pleasure that I have with my hand and the pen. So do you understand that this letter, lowercase I, the point and the pen, okay, this a penis. It's like a penis, right? A pen is a point, okay? A pen makes the point come onto the paper. Okay. Now, the fucker, writing, coming out the pen, is experiencing intimate pleasure, emptying to make a baby. That's the penis. And you see the I-sex, I-S-E-X, I-sex, experiencing, because a man with the pen is experiencing sex, intimate pleasure, emptying into the hole to make a baby. I-sex. Now this is a homosexual trip. I-sex. I see self-example. So he's not emptying to make a baby. He's seeing self-example. Self-example. The male hole in the butt or the mouth is an example to him of himself. So he thinks he's I-sexing self. Alright? That's crazy. That's why. That's mentally disorder. It used to be. The psychiatrist said it was the #1 mental disorder. Then in 1973, homosexuals bullied the psychiatrist at a conference into removing homosexuality as the #1 mental disorder from the DSM, the book of symptoms, right? And they never said it wasn't a mental disorder. They just removed it from the book of symptoms. So you can't read that it's a mental disorder. You have to read it with your own brain that it's a mental disorder to put a penis in a hole of shit. As what's his name? Howard Stern says, it's an exit, fellas, not an entrance. So that's common sense. Now, fuckers. So I explained, fucker for the homosexual. feel, you, see, key is her. Okay? Now the fucker, that's the homosexual. It's feel, you, see, key. Feel, you, see, key. Substitute her. See? He's fucking a substitute for her. Okay, because then they're gonna make any babies. Okay, so that's the homosexual deception. That they're see self-example. It's not themselves, they see, it's another guy. But they delude themselves that the other guy, because it's a penis, another penis, is the same as his. Now, guys, gals, the sun, this is a different topic. I'm off with that. I made my points there. Guys, gals, the sun has unlimited power. He can see everything at the same time. He can talk. He can make a baby. I know because he made a baby in me that I'm going to deliver February 14th on St. Valentine's Day. St. Valentine is Jesus Christ. He also made a baby in me. That's why I have twins. Neither of them touched me with their flesh. That's why the twins are immaculate conceptions. That's extraordinary. That's like a miracle. That's amazing. Okay, that's good news. That's inspiration. The strongest loves in the world, the highest authority in the world, and above, and in the sky, in the heavens, have created a baby for you to be inspired by. The son can become a baby. Okay, and that's what he did with Gorinda Singh. Gorinda Singh is a projection of the son. Jesus Christ is a projection of his father. And so is Eve, the mother of the earth, a projection of the sun. Okay? Alright, let's move on. Now, another video I was talking about Zuckerberg and Bill Gates giving vaccines to Africans in Uganda and I think Kenya. And when the women grew up, the girl children grew up, they couldn't have babies. They couldn't hold on to their babies. They kept having miscarriages. So the government kicked them out of the country. But the point is this. The rich, the globalists, are so afraid of losing what they have that they imagine the people, the billions of people, will take their money from them. They know they can't protect their money from all the people on the earth. So they want to depopulate the earth for the most part, in large part. And they're going to go into hiding until the nuclear bomb has done its job, or however they do it, you know. And yeah. So that was that insight was given to me by my UK contact, and I'm very grateful for her observation, her thinking. What do we got here? The truth is, I'm going to read what I wrote a couple of days ago, and I haven't reread it, so I don't know what it is. Let's see what I wrote. The truth is, white people are afraid of black people, especially niggas, nat consciousness, because they know they have low IQs and are not smart enough to know how to reason. Check out Stefan Molyneux, who is Aristotle, discussions on podcasts about IQs. The least conflict, niggas become violent. It's like if you accidentally step on a black teen's toe on a crowded subway, she's liable to stab you. She can't understand the concept of accidentally done. What white people don't understand is niggers have the consciousness of gnats. If you swat them, they die. Bernie Goetz staved off the potential attack of 3 or 4 black teens. Excerpts from Bernie Goetz's Subway is at www.realclearpolitics.com. And these are excerpts, like I said. From the mid-1960s to 1980, violent felonies had tripled in the city. Realistic concerns about being a crime victim have become one of the defining characteristics of living in New York City. Richard Ravitch, chairman of the MTA, candidly told the City Business Group in 1982 that he himself was nervous about riding the trains at night and had forbid his teenage son from doing so. Sons, he had more than one apparently. Millions of New Yorkers felt the same way. By the end of that year, ridership had declined to its lowest level since World War I. Personal note, my children had to ride the subway from Queens, and I had to ride the subway from Queens into Manhattan daily around that time. I brought books for them to read during the ride. One day, an older black woman complimented me on my parenting skills with regard to my children's behavior on the train. We never had any problems riding trains in New York City. Back to the other story, Bernie Goetz's story. Darrell Cabey told Jimmy Breslin that bespectacled train passenger Bernard Goetz looked like easy bait. They were fishermen, for money that day, perhaps most days. They could use a working man's salary as access to the money they sought, the working man being bespectacled Bernie Goetz. Electrical engineer, obviously smart as he acquired that skill set, Goetz was an easy bait, but Cabey and his 3 companions didn't know that until it was too late. Goetz had been recently robbed and assaulted, and was so incensed by the lenient treatment of his assailants that he sought permission to carry a licensed firearm. Goetz's permission to carry a licensed gun was denied, but he bought one anyway, a .38 caliber Smith & Wesson, which he was carrying hidden on the fateful subway ride. Darrell Cabey was 19, as were 2 of his mates, Troy Canty and Barry Allen. A 4th youth, James Ronsoul, was 18. All were from the Bronx, and on this day they were carrying screwdrivers, apparently with the intention of breaking into video machines at an arcade and stealing the change. When they saw Goetz, Canty, and Ramseur approach him and said, "Give us $5. Not said, or we'll hurt you." Personal note, when I met my first husband in Central Park at a rally to mourn the death of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., now my grandson, Lou Ranziger, he, my first husband, Edwin Birdsong, said 10 minutes after he first saw and studied me, "Easy bait." My roommate and I were seated on a bench, having arrived too late to show our respects for Dr. King, who'd been assassinated 5 days earlier, when I saw these 3 black guys walking toward us. I said, "If you've come to the rally, you're too late," trying to be helpful, to serve my fellow humans. I was an airline stewardess. It was my job to serve. I served passengers, the captain, co-captain, and flight engineer in any way I could. I had worked as a waitress at the Avenue Lounge, an upscale bar for blacks on the south side of Chicago. I met one of my husbands from a past life, Willie Davis, number 87, defensive captain of the Green Bay Packers at a time when Vince Lombardi was their coach and they were undefeated. It is in my DNA to serve. I've recently learned that my blood father was Reverend Dr. Wilbur Daniels. He served the colored community in Clarksville, Tennessee, by being an amazing preacher. A good-looking, he looked white with red hair, charismatic, well-educated preacher. I dated him after he and I met in Chicago, where he'd gone to pastor a larger church in a larger city, and I'd gone to enlarge my claustrophobic environment in Clarksville. Before Wilbur Daniel in the Lion's Den, left Clarksville, he desegregated the graduate school of Austin Peay State College, the town's institution of higher learning. I also have the DNA of a smart mother. She was the smartest person in her middle school class where they studied Latin, which gave her a lifelong love of reading and of consulting the dictionary when she ran across a word whose meaning she did not know. My mother, Corinne Bitches Crowder, Miss Frog, now Jindara Ranzinger, my granddaughter, was the valedictorian of her class in a school with highest standards. You can't be as smart as a white person. You have to be smarter, was the principal's motto, which he enforced. Jindara has been reborn as Shirley Temple, Black, Uncle Sam, the projection of Jesus Christ consciousness, and in the century as my granddaughter, as I said earlier. My daughter, Robin Birdsong, a voracious reader, I taught her phonics at home because I knew that phonics, the study of the 44 sounds of the English language, had been removed from most public schools in America. The reason, the excuse being it was too hard for students. The look-say method was easier and just as good. Not true. You have no clue. With look-say, you have no clue as to how to sound out new words if you don't know the letter sounds that begin and encompass the words. Let me say right here, one reason the globalists had the schools dumbed down was because a dumb person is easier to control than a thinking, educated person. Okay, so although people still go to schools and get education, the quality of the schools have greatly diminished. They are propaganda institutions for the globalists. They're no longer teaching people how to think, how to reason objectively, and how to know their history and geography. They changed the books so that it's not true history that's being taught anymore, So homeschooling is the best bet these days. So also, you do not know with look-say method of reading how to spell unless you've studied the rules for sounds of letters and words. That's why so few people know how to read well. Phonics is how to read and how to spell subject. Robin, my daughter, having studied Latin and phonics, reads a lot. She taught my mother, her grandmother, when she became my granddaughter, Jindara Michelle Renziger, Robin's niece, to read. Also, when Jindara was my mother, Robin was my Aunt Donnie, who babysat me 24/7 during the week. When my mother, Miss Frog, had been a child into teen years, and Donnie was her substitute mother. My mother's mother, Mama Mill, now Jindara, my granddaughter's mother, is Mama Mill, now Melanie L. Spear. Melanie gave Mama to Aunt Donnie and her husband, Brother Wright, because they were productive, sharing relatives and citizens, good people. Okay, and she was living with a bad man. a man who drank to access, a man who was known to be violent. In fact, he had killed someone, it was rumored. So the point is, as Gendaro's aunt, again, Robin, taught Gendara, she took pains to tutor Jin, as I had taken pains to tutor Robin in reading. And now Jin has few pleasures, but one is the intimate pleasure of reading. That's a form of sex because it is intimate pleasure. I served my aunt when she was my daughter, Robin. Robin had been Galileo. After Galileo was arrested by the all-powerful Catholic Church for telling the truth, which was and is the earth revolves around the sun. The sun and planets don't revolve around the earth. Right. So the Catholic Church couldn't admit they had been teaching the people wrong information. So they forced the astronomer Galileo to say he had been wrong. The sun does not revolve around the earth. Galileo had seen with his own eyes, looking through the telescope, the earth revolved around the sun. So he went a little batty at the injustice of being put under house arrest until he died. So he went a little batty for being put under arrest for discovering the truth that uncovered the church's teachings to be false. Galileo has been reborn as my daughter, Robin Birdsong, who I served as her reading spelling teacher in addition to being her mother, as I said. A mother is a child's guardian angel. When Robin was Aunt Donnie Minnows, my babysitter, during the week she made me clothes by hand using her sewing machine. She made my favorite caramel cakes starting from scratch. She bought a piano and paid for a taxi to take me to piano lessons. She ordered the latest in hair care products for my hair at all times, often. She gave my sister and I shower baths, being hosed on hot days. She taught me to do manual labor, to wash dishes, to clean Venetian blinds, one slat at a time. She took me to church. She and Brother Wright took me to church 2, sometimes 3 times a week, so I became a lover of Jesus Christ and of his Father as a child. You're looking at a picture of his father, okay, the Father, Son. Today I am an adult lover of Jesus and of his Father, the Son. Indeed, I'm pregnant with their babies. I'm having the twins February 14th. Jesus Christ is St. Valentine. Of the many things Aunt Donnie did for me was the time she had a colored artist come over and paint artistically on her sun porch door. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. First and 20th century Jesus Christ, my husband. First century, my master, personal spiritual God. 20th century told me the world is mad. Then he guided me spiritually to develop a cure for madness, which I started off calling working through feelings. I now call talk and share. Having been Freud, German psychiatrist Fritz Perls, Carl Jung, Dr. Jordan B. Peterson's wife, Emma Jung, I worked the talk and share process, serving Galileo, now Robin Birdsong, for 25 years, long hours, almost daily we worked. Talk and share is a Socratic, our Socrates method of asking questions to arrive at your personal truth about which ever trauma you're dealing with. Subway vigilante Bernard Getz, after they told him to give him $5, stood up, shot the would-be thieves. He was arrested, put on trial. The boys said they were panhandling. What panhandler demands money? That's a bully. Unspoken. Give me your money or your life. Anyhow, Getz was convicted only of the gun charge. He spent 8 months in jail. Since then, Getz has run for office, yay, Marched in a vegan parade. Yay, I'm a lacto-vegetarian myself. Pinched on a marijuana charge. Boo. Marijuana is the devil himself. Devil. Do evil. Doing evil. Okay. Life didn't go smoothly for the young men who he shot. Men they were not. Animals they were not. Gnats they were. If Whitey wasn't scared of niggers, he could control them and render them harmless. Deport them to Africa or Haiti or some other hellhole. They make the part of America they're in into a hellhole. Same goes for the gnats in Chicago. Send them away. Why not ship them off to Liberia? The radical Islamists are turning the West into hellholes. Listen to the stories of rapes in London and Germany and Sweden. The Muslims are more dangerous than gnats. They are dinosaurs, just as Whitey's afraid of gnats, except Pamela Geller and a few other conservatives aren't afraid of them. Whitey's afraid of the dinosaurs. The military can capture and return the Islamists back to the rocks. Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, burn the poppy fields in Afghanistan, Yemen, Somalia, Thailand. Also, human trafficking is a problem animals and cockroach consciousness are engaged in. Once America wakes up and realizes the people making our lives hell, the Linda Sansors of the world, and that they are Satan, she'll send them, bomb them back to prehistoric time because they are not fit, not adapted for human forms in the 21st century. You know what you're dealing with, and you've been given suggestions as to how to deal with them. So deal. Putting them in some cushy jail at the taxpayers' expense is not the answer. To hell with them. Haiti, Africa, Yemen, Pakistan, etc. Derek Cabey sued Getz in civil court and was awarded $43 million, none of which he's ever collected. Barry Allen continued his life of petty crime and did some time in prison. Troy Canty went into drug rehab and was later arrested for domestic abuse. Attempting revenge, James Ramseur reported to police that after he left the hospital, 2 men hired by Getz kidnapped him at gunpoint, claims that were quickly unraveled as a hoax. Note, evidence of low IQ, which many believe is genetic. A little over a year later, Ramseur was sent to prison for holding a gun on a pregnant woman while she was being raped. Nat Conscience. 3 years ago today, he was found dead at a drug overdose in a Bronx motel room. It was the 27th anniversary of his confrontation on the subway. Carl M. Cannon, who wrote that article, is the Washington bureau chief for Real Clear Politics. Reach him on Twitter at Carl Cannon, Cannon. So my point is the $5 those guys demanded from Bernard Getz, my first husband, Edwin Birdsong, after he finished telling me he was going to marry me, and I said, I wouldn't even date you. He went over somehow to a German couple, older couple, talked to them, and in a few minutes he came back with $5. So there you go. So we had a falling out because he acted like a nigger and betrayed me. But I also reported later that I worked with him to help get him established in the music business because that's what he said he wanted. And I had married him because he wooed me, a lot. He really chased me until I fell in love with him. So what is my point? Oh, so though he cheated me out of my share of the royalties, because I wrote the lyrics for his albums, two of his albums, um, he does help my daughter and my son, our daughter and our son, financially. So in a way I got my wish, because I wanted to help him, my husband, to make money so our children wouldn't have to be poor and not have the things that they needed. This is Mild Red Songbird in New York City. Having told you some stories, you might need to listen to this video again because I packed it with information. Okay, so long.